Hey guys, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. In this episode I'll be teaching you how to make a walking dead cake. So to begin, I've got my butter in a tall saucepan, medium size. I'm going to put the heat on medium low, and I'm going to add my water with some vanilla extract, my chocolate, some instant coffee granules. And we're going to keep stirring that until it's all melted and combined. Once that's completely melted, I'm going to add in my caster sugar. Just combine that in there. Once all that sugar's been dissolved, I've turned off the heat and I'm going to add my buttermilk. Combine that, and that will make sure that the chocolate is nice and cool now, so we can add our eggs and it won't cook them. Adding in my eggs with the oil and combining that. I've placed all my dry ingredients in my standing mix. I'm going to put it on low and slowly add in our wet. Just until incorporated. I have a square 6-inch cake tin here. I'm going to pour that in, and you'll want to double this recipe, by the way, so you'll need a second 6-inch tin. My cake baked for an hour and a half. I'm going to remove it from the cake tin, and it's been sitting at room temperature for a good 15 minutes now. Now just let it sit for another half an hour, just until it reaches room temperature. Once your cake's cooled down completely, wrap it up in Glad wrap and let it sit at room temperature for a day or so, maybe overnight. The thing about mud cakes is that they do want to rest for about a day or two, just to become a lot denser, become richer, and they tend to become a lot more moist as well. I've got my chocolate mud cake here that we've made yesterday, and I'm going to level it off. So I'm going to go on one edge. I'm going to see if I can make it as level as I can with the indent inside the cake. As you can see, it's kind of fallen in itself. And just continue around the cake, keeping your knife as level as possible. Alright, once you've gone around the cake, that should come undone. I've prepared some dark chocolate ganache, and I'm just going to pop some onto my cake board, not too much. And this will keep our cake sticking to the board. So this is one of the cakes. I'm going to add a little bit of ganache in between the layers. Not too much. And add your second layer, but make sure this time the bottom of the cake is now the top. So you're facing upwards. And make sure it's all level. Just going to put this in the fridge, so you don't want any of that ganache to be setting while it's all poking outside. So that's going to go into the fridge for about 10 minutes, and then we'll take it out and we'll start shaving down the sides to make the doors. This is a photo that I'll be using as reference to guide my design of the cake. I'm going to start trimming down the sides, marking where the middle is. Because our doors are going to be slightly open, so you want this to be cutting across diagonally a little bit. Not much. Always start off small when you're shaving and then just continue building. So you can always take off more, but you can't put back on. And don't panic if it looks really messy. The chocolate ganache that we're going to use is going to fix all that up. Same on the other side. And I'm also going to take a section right in the middle. So I'll go diagonally on one side, kick around and go diagonal and meet it halfway. Like that. I'm going to go in with my ganache and just do a crumb coat over the whole thing. Crumb coat is just a really fine layer of ganache or buttercream or whatever medium you're using, and it captures all of those crumbs and stops them from interfering with the last layer that we put, so it's going to be nice and clean. Go around the edges and even off the surface. When When you're satisfied with that, return it to the fridge for another 10 or so minutes, nothing too big. That's come out of my fridge, and I'm going to layer on another thin layer of ganache, and this will be our last layer. And we're just building on top of that other ganache. I'm going to add some more, just a little extra, because then we're going to go in with our bench scraper, and we're going to remove just a little bit of that ganache. I'm going to keep it at 90 degrees and then just bring it towards me. Clean it off and then just continue off that edge. And now I'm going to go ahead and scrape off the excess on the top of the cake. So I'm going to bring all that chocolate forward on both ends. And the sides as well. I'm going to return that to the freezer and we'll come back in about 15 minutes. I want it to be nice and hard. I'm preparing my white fondant and I've tinged it with some gel food colour Wilton Brown. And I didn't add very much at all, just enough to give it a bit of a tan colour. To tell whether or not the colour has been evenly distributed through your fondant, you just cut it through the middle. And you should be able to see that it's completely wet on the inside as well, no streaks. I do have a bit of streaks, so I'm going to knead it for just a little bit longer. And I've dusted my work surface with some cornstarch. If you don't have cornstarch, you could even use icing sugar, or I know a lot of people also use Crisco. Vegetable shortening works as well. And if you get any of those air bubbles like I've got here, just pop them out, otherwise they'll show up on your cake. And continue rolling. You want it to be at least, or about 1/4 of an inch thick. And now for the step that I think most people find really daunting, is applying your fondant onto your cake. Rolled it onto my rolling pin, and I lay it over the top. And first of all, press down the very top of the cake. Seal in those edges as well. Stop from tearing, and then slowly work around the cake. So grab your fondant, pull it down, but pull it, kind of stretch it sideways as well, just to get rid of all those folds. And just keep going like that. This is a really short cake, so it's being really nice of me. Then go in with your fondant smoothers and just smooth the top and all around the sides. To make sure that it's attached to the bottom of the cake, I like to slap it against the bench or the cake board. My favourite tool to use to cut away the edges is this little spatula. I got this when I had the Cricut machine, which is like a paper cutting scrapbooking machine. I just find that it works really well with this. But if you have a Stanley knife, for example, you could use that as well. I like this particularly because I can rest the blade up against the cake, and that, more often than not, gives me a really clean cut. And slowly pull away, just in case it hasn't cut through completely, and end up lifting the like that. The fondant. You end up lifting the fondant. I'm struggling for words today. Okay, next I'm going to roll a thin strip of black fondant and just cut it around the sides. And take your black strip and drape it along either side of the cake, making sure that it reaches the bottom. And the other side as well. I'm going to use the big end of the bowl tool just to reinforce that dent that we did in here at the beginning. I have my image beside me just as reference. I'm going to start writing the "Don't Open Dead Inside" using an Americolour gourmet writer. To make the little fingers that are going to pop out from the door, I'm grabbing a little bit of that fondant that we had left over, and I've coloured it a little bit deeper brown, just to contrast. Now I'm grabbing little balls of it, I'm going to roll it in my palm and then just shape the fingers to little sausages. Next step is the fun step. We get to start shading and colouring in our cake. I'm using an airbrush here, but you could just use some black powdered food colour. And I'm going around the bottom edge. You'll find that on the photo the top edge isn't as dark, so I'm sort of avoiding that area. And keep going around the cake. Don't forget to do the edges as well. Again, you could do this with a dry brush and some food coloured powder. And just for effect, I'm also going in with the red. Remember, this is a zombie apocalypse cake, so you're going to have some blood stain on that door somewhere. It also adds a really nice looking shadow as well, really nice effect. Next step, we'll start attaching all our little fingers. So I'm taking them, I'm trying to line up 5 next to each other, sometimes 4, depending how it looks. And make sure to have the fingers bent, that way it gives them a little bit more dimension. And then go in with the small end of your round bowl tool, and that'll just create some nails. It looks really cute actually. Yep. And then taking some of that black powder onto my finger, and I'm going to start brushing it or just pressing it onto those fingers, give it a little bit more dimension like it's dirt. And then go with the brush and some red food colour and draw in your blood. To make the little handles on the door, I've used just that regular fondant that we had before. I'm using some alcohol and some grey / silver lusty dust, and I'm painting it onto those panels. Attach those onto your cake, although I'd recommend having done this before you added the fingers. As you can see here, I struggled a little with that hand, but it all worked out in the end. Add in your handles as well, make sure that they're lifted and they're popping off the cake. And I've used the back of my brush just to indent the sides, 1 to help it attach onto the panel, and 2 to give it that look as if it's been nailed on there. I'm finding this music really inappropriate for this style of cake, but I think it just adds to the eerie feel of it all. Adding just a couple spare zombie fingers here, and I'm going to indent the tip of the fingers just to add some nails again. And that's how it's done. Thank you guys for watching this video tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week.